Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another Recur model, as I have been just running through tons of Recur figures recently as I got a very large box full of them from the Amazon Recur store, and this one is one that I was really excited to get my hands on. This is the star of the upcoming Jurassic World Dominion film. We've got ourselves a Giganotosaurus, and it looks honestly really neat. And one thing about this model that I noticed straight away when I was unboxing it is that it has a really cool wash on it, like a nice dark wash. And if you know me, you know I love a nice dark wash on my models, so I instantly was drawn to this one because of that very realistic looking dark wash that they've applied, making sure that the detail pops beautifully, I would say, on the model. But it has a pretty cool looking greenish paint scheme as well, with like a green and almost like a yellowish brown for the majority of the body. So very nice looking paint scheme that I feel like is potentially realistic. As usual, what we have here on the foot, if we can spin it around, is a little tag type deal that has some information on Recur, but if you open it up, you can always get a really cool idea of what the scale of your dinosaur figure is in when it comes to a Recur model, and we can see that this one is in a 1/57th scale range for the Giganotosaurus. And then as we run along here, we have a really cool area here that sports some information about the Giganotosaurus, as well as a question and answer area. And then if we go to the last part, there's actually nothing here. There's usually a little bit of information on Recur right here, but it's not present on this one. Maybe it was back here a little bit in this area, maybe. But definitely fun to have these little tags here included, giving you some information on the dinosaur and Recur themselves. But the Giganotosaurus here definitely looks really cool at first glance, so let's go ahead and get a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Giganotosaurus, I think it actually looks really quite nice, and I really love the way they've sculpted out the skin texture and the scales and everything up here on the face. Like, it looks really nice, and it was almost like they had sculpted it out specifically to be able to use this dark wash, or they just instantly realized how good the detail was and applied the dark wash, because that dark wash plays off of that detailing perfectly. Like, it really makes all of the detail pop so beautifully, and gives it, again, in my opinion, a very realistic appearance as far as the actual paint application goes. The primary coloration that we have up here on the face is almost like a very strange greenish type of a color, like a light green. It's a very strange color to try to describe, but it looks nice and natural, I would say, on the model, and plays off of the darker green that we have up here on the back of the dinosaur quite nicely. You can see the eye is painted with a red and given a nice black pupil. It shines quite realistically as there is a gloss coat added to it, and it definitely looks quite nice as far as the eye paint goes. It really pops as far as that nice darker red compared to the lighter coloration of the face. You can also see the nostrils sculpted out up here on the snout. The teeth appear to be all sculpted quite nicely, and you also have a really nice realistic dark purplish coloration for the inside of the mouth, kind of a glossy look in there as well. And the paint doesn't appear to be sloppy anywhere on the teeth, which is something that is nice to see, and that's something that you actually often see when it comes to Recur models. Like, I really don't ever expect to see sloppiness as far as the paintwork of their figures goes, and I almost never do. In fact, I can't even think of a point in time where I had seen any type of sloppiness in the paint of a Recur figure, so that is definitely a plus as far as the overall quality control for their line goes, and shows off, again, that they always try to give you really nice, very good products, and top of the line products at that. But the inside of the mouth definitely looks quite nice. You can see the tongue in there as well. Looking up here at the top of the head, you can see how this darker green kind of runs up here in the center of the skull, and it looks really nice, again, as far as like that green playing off of the lighter coloration here on the lower part of the body. And I really like that that dark wash is present up here in the darker green areas as well, because that actually makes that darker green area pop even better. It does have a very strong gloss coat in the green area up here, which I'm not too sure how I feel about it. I normally don't really like a glossy look on my dinosaurs, but in general, the entire figure almost kind of has a bit of a glossy look, and it somehow actually looks pretty darn cool because of it. As you lead back here into the neck, you can see lots and lots of creasing going on because our Giganotosaurus has its head turned to the right, so it's really bunching the skin up there in the neck region, and that is beautifully sculpted out. You can even see the throat down here a little bit. You can also see some ridges running along the back of our Giganotosaurus and some osteoderms. Like, there's actually a lot of osteoderms poking up here and there. You start to see them there in the neck, but as we run down here into the body itself, you can see tons of osteoderms all over the upper side of our Giganotosaurus. Really nice detailing here in the stomach region as far as like the skin texture goes. Again, it looks beautiful, and you can see the arms are held into the body in a fairly nice and natural way. Unfortunately, the wrists do appear to be pronated, which is not how a Giganotosaurus's, wrist would actually be, but it still looks pretty nice, and that's something that is really quite common when it comes to a Recur figure, as they usually have their own stylized versions of their figures. But you can also see how like the skin is playing off of the arm pushing into the body right there, and you can see that the nails are nicely painted with a glossy black. And I will say that this darker green coloration is very nice and naturally applied. Like, there's not any type of a smooth transition, like it's a very abrupt transition between those colors, but it looks really natural with that abrupt transition. Like, they have done a very good job of applying it, I assume, with an airbrush, so it looks, again, as realistic as it could possibly get. As you lead back here into the leg area, you can see the hip bone a little bit right there, as well as some more of those osteoderms and more ridges running along the spinal column. You can see some beautiful muscle definition here in the thigh, as well as the calf. Very large, very bulky legs here on our Giganotosaurus, and it actually has its legs kind of spread apart a little bit, as it appears to be like trying to stand its ground and maybe intimidate something, or maybe it's actually in mid-battle. Like, it really has that appearance like it's currently in a fighting stance, and I really like that aspect as well. It's not just like a random walking pose for the Giganotosaurus, and that is something that Recur is always good at. I've mentioned it numerous times as far as the aquatic species go, about how they can come up with some pretty interesting poses for their figures at times. And that's definitely something that I see here with this Giganotosaurus. You can like really see how far apart the legs are right there, obviously showing that the dinosaur really wants to hold its ground and is not going to back down from whatever is approaching it. You can continue to see how that nice dark wash plays off of the detailing beautifully throughout the entire figure, and you can see that even down here into the feet. Nice scoots running down the course of the toes, and you have some nails here, again painted with a glossy black, and we also do have dew claws back there, which are painted. Huge plus as far as that goes. You can see a lot of skin wrinkles and stuff and skin creasing going on right here as far as like the dinosaur's legs pulling forward, stretching off of the tail. The tail itself is in a very sharp curve, again also showing off the movement of this dinosaur, obviously dealing with some sort of a threat or maybe a meal. I don't know. It honestly doesn't really look like it's taking down a meal or anything. Like, it really has like a defensive nature to it, so it almost feels like it's maybe fending off another Giganotosaurus or something like that. And I think that curved tail also shows that. And you can also see again the skin detail looks great out here, as well as the coloration looks beautifully applied, very nice and natural application of the paint. And then if we go over here, you can now see how the skin is stretching very nicely. So Recur always does a good job on paying attention to the small details that you would expect to see. That's a very nice area to show that, how they have like the skin stretching as opposed to like bunching up. Like, you can see lots of creasing over here, stretching over here because the dinosaur has its head turned to the right, so it would really be stretching that skin quite beautifully right there. The head sculpt does look really nice over here, again, just like we had seen on the previous side. We also have that nicely painted eye with the red and the black pupil yet again. As we lead down here into the body, you can see the arm is a little bit further out than what we see on the previous side, yet still sort of held into the body a little bit. You can see some muscle definition within that arm, and again, very nice scoots down the course of the fingers. Pretty nice looking hand sculpt right there. And then we see some more nice detailing here in the stomach region, but due to the positioning of the dinosaur with its legs forward, you don't see too much on either side. Like, normally you'll have like a stepping position on one side, but then the leg trailing or something on the other side, where you could see a lot of one side of the stomach, but you don't see that too much because of, again, the defensive positioning of the Giganotosaurus. Kind of blocks some of the detailing of the stomach, but I really do like the pose of this figure. And again, you can see some beautiful skin detail, lots of like wrinkling and stuff back here in the back of the thigh, Very nice muscle definition again throughout the entire leg. Beautiful dark wash running down the course of the leg. And you again have the foot sculpt like we had seen on the previous side. And you can see more of that skin wrinkling and stretching again due to the positioning of the dinosaur right here as the skin is leading off of the tail. And you can see that really nice curve in the tail yet again like we had seen on the previous side. The underside is also really quite highly detailed, just like the model is everywhere else, including even the undersides of the feet. So definitely a really fun Giganotosaurus to introduce to my collection, but also just generally awesome to have one from Recur. And again, if this happens to be like the first review of a Recur product that you've had the opportunity to see, these are a soft squishy feel, so you can like see how they squish here. You can bend the bodies and stuff, which makes them a great product to buy for kids because you get a really sizable dinosaur figure that's nice and soft and safe to play with. And also it's a great thing because if you happen to drop your figure, it's not going to damage near as easily as most would. And again, I've never been able to damage a Recur model ever. Not that I throw my dinosaur figures around or anything, but I do drop them from time to time when moving them around. Never had even the slightest bit of damage on a Recur model every time I've dropped one. So that is always a huge plus to this style of figure, being that soft, squishy feel. But as far as a size goes, for a length on our Giganotosaurus, and it would obviously be way larger if the tail were actually stretched out and the head was stretched out, but considering the defensive position that it is in fact in right now, it's about 9 3/4 inches, or about the 25 centimeter mark. And then for a height, you're looking at closing in on 4.5 inches, or about 11.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon in comparison to our Recur Giganotosaurus. And you can see now, again, as usual when it comes to a Recur model, that it has a very impressive size to it, but being that it's in kind of a slouched position, obviously in a very defensive looking position, you can see it is a bit shorter on the height side as far as the Papo Rex, but if this Giganotosaurus were standing up tall, I feel like it would definitely be rivaling the Papo Rex in the height department, but obviously is outdoing it in the overall size department of body mass in general. But definitely a really nicely sized figure. Again, whenever you buy a Recur model, you should definitely be aware of the fact that you are going to get a really nicely sized dinosaur figure. So this Recur Giganotosaurus is definitely a really exciting addition to my collection. I love any chance I get to enter a new Giganotosaurus into my collection. It's definitely a great day when I get to add a new Recur model to my collection, and I feel like they did do a really good job on this one in general. Like, the sculpt is very highly detailed, and the skin texture honestly was so perfect for the dark wash that they've applied to it. And I know I've said that numerous times, but I just can't get over how cool it looks with the dark wash. I'm always such a huge fan of any company that releases a figure and applies a dark wash to it, because I feel like it really adds another level of realism to the model, and Recur has done a really good job on this one because it's not like an overbearing dark wash. It's just, applied nicely enough to give it some color variation and make sure that each and every one of the cracks and crevices within the skin texture pops perfectly. So they have done a great job as far as that goes. And of course, doing a great job as far as paying attention to like the little details when it comes to like movement within the skin and everything on the figure. And also just generally the pose is really appealing to the eye. I like the crouching, very defensive looking pose. It would be nice to get two of these Giganotosaurus and put them like face to face, looking like they're facing off against each other. It definitely would be a really cool diorama that you could create with two Giganotosaurus, because it really gives me the feeling of like this Giganotosaurus is like potentially defending its turf against another Giganotosaurus that happens to be walking in or something. It really, really does not look happy, and definitely from the positioning of the body, again, that crouched position with the legs spread apart a little bit, it looks like it's holding its ground against whatever is invading its territory. The paintwork as well is really nice. It's not anything overly flashy, but it looks nice and natural on the model and definitely is beautifully applied. I like the tones of green that they've used for it. The only thing that at times can be a little strange is the glossy look, which I'm not always a huge fan of on dinosaur figures, but it actually does somehow look really cool on this Giganotosaurus. So I normally don't like it, but I do actually quite like it on this figure here. So another really nice Recur model. and another great addition to my collection. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to both the Recur website as well as the Amazon Recur store, where you can head on over there and pick yourself up some awesome Recur figures today. So make sure you check the link in the description, go buy some of these really cool Recur models, including this Giganotosaurus, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.